then
Have
he
you
said,
ever met
"I thought you
someone who
brought the
seemed to
keys." "Oh no,
understand
seriously, what
exactly
did
what
you
another
do?"
person was
We had
feeling
to call a
before they even
locksmith. It was
spoke?
hilarious.
Imagine walking into a crowded cafe. People are laughing, talking, and smiling, yet one person quietly scans the room and somehow senses that the couple in the corner has just argued. The businessman by the window is hiding anxiety, and the cheerful friend greeting everyone is forcing a smile. Most people call this intuition. Psychology suggests something much deeper. How can someone seem to read another person in just a few seconds? Psychologists have studied this ability for decades, and their findings are fascinating. People who appear to read others instantly aren't mind readers. They simply notice signals that most people overlook. Every interaction is filled with subtle clues, tiny facial expressions, changes in tone, brief pauses, body language, and emotional inconsistencies. While most of us focus on words, these observers pay attention to everything happening around those words. Even more surprising, this ability often begins developing years before adulthood, shaped by life experiences that quietly train the brain to recognize emotional patterns without conscious effort. Imagine meeting a new coworker. They smile confidently, shake your hand, and say they're excited to join the team. Everyone believes them immediately, but one person notices the smile fades almost instantly, their shoulders remain tense, and their eyes keep scanning the room. Their words sound positive, but their body tells another story. People who read others quickly compare what someone says with how they behave. When those two don't match, they become curious instead of judgmental. They know emotions naturally leak through behavior, even when someone tries to hide them. This doesn't mean they're suspicious. In fact, they're often the least judgmental people in the room. Instead of assuming someone is dishonest, they wonder if the person is simply nervous, overwhelmed, or trying to make a good impression. Great observers collect clues before forming conclusions. That patience often makes their understanding far more accurate than someone who judges within the first few seconds. One of psychology's biggest surprises is that many highly observant people never chose to become that way. Their awareness often developed as a survival skill. Imagine growing up in a home where moods changed without warning. A peaceful evening could suddenly become tense. Over time, the brain learns to detect tiny emotional shifts because recognizing them early feels safer. Years later, those same people continue scanning every room without realizing it. What once protected them becomes an extraordinary ability to understand others. If you've ever been called too sensitive, this may explain why. Sensitivity isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's evidence that your brain became exceptionally skilled at noticing emotional information that others miss. You may sense tension before an argument begins, or notice sadness before someone admits it. While this awareness can feel exhausting, it can also become one of your greatest strengths. Another reason these people seem so accurate is that they focus on patterns instead of isolated moments. Most people judge someone based on one conversation. Observant people compare weeks, months, or even years of behavior. Imagine a coworker who suddenly becomes unusually friendly. Most people assume they've simply become nicer. But someone who notices patterns remembers this friendliness only appears before they ask for favors. Psychology consistently shows that repeated actions reveal character far better than isolated events. They also pay attention to emotional timing. Genuine emotions happen naturally. Imagine someone receiving wonderful news. Their eyes brighten before they even realize they're smiling. Now picture someone pretending to be excited. There's often a tiny pause before the smile appears because they're consciously creating it. The difference may last less than a second, but experienced observers notice it immediately. They're not looking for lies, they're recognizing the natural rhythm of authentic emotion. Silence is also a powerful source of information. Most people rush to fill quiet moments because silence feels uncomfortable. Observant people do the opposite. Imagine two coworkers leaving a stressful meeting. One nervously keeps talking while the other simply listens. After a few moments of silence, the nervous coworker suddenly reveals what they're actually worried about. Sometimes people don't need better questions, they simply need enough space to tell the truth. Here's something many people never realize. Reading others actually begins with understanding yourself. The people who recognize emotions most accurately are often those who have spent time understanding their own feelings. If you've experienced anxiety, disappointment, or heartbreak, you're more likely to recognize those emotions in someone else. Self-awareness becomes a mirror. The more clearly you understand yourself, the more accurately you understand everyone around you. Imagine meeting an old friend after several months. They laugh throughout the conversation and insist everything is going well. Most people believe them, but you notice their smile disappears whenever the conversation pauses. They avoid talking about work, and their laughter feels louder than usual. Before leaving, you quietly ask, "Are you really okay?" Suddenly, the truth comes out. It wasn't mind reading, it was careful observation combined with empathy. Ironically, the people who understand others best are often the slowest to judge them. While most of us form first impressions within seconds, emotionally intelligent people stay curious. Instead of deciding someone is rude because they're quiet, they wonder if they're shy, exhausted, or simply having a difficult day. Curiosity prevents assumptions, and assumptions are often what blind us to the truth. They also notice emotional contradictions. Someone says they don't care about a breakup, but check their phone every few minutes. A manager praises an employee while avoiding eye contact. A friend insists they're not angry even though their posture becomes tense. These contradictions don't always mean someone is lying. More often, they reveal an internal conflict between what a person wants to feel and what they actually feel. Perhaps the biggest secret is that these people give others their full attention. While many of us spend conversations thinking about what we'll say next, they focus completely on the other person. They listen carefully, notice expressions, remember small details, and observe changes in energy. Because they're fully present, they absorb information that everyone else misses. That's why truly good listeners often seem incredibly insightful. They're not reading minds, they're paying attention. Experience also sharpens this ability. Think about a teacher who has worked with hundreds of students. Before a struggling student asks for help, the teacher notices hesitation, frustration, and uncertainty. It feels like intuition, but it's actually years of recognizing familiar patterns. The brain quietly connects thousands of past experiences, allowing it to recognize emotions almost instantly. Perhaps the most important lesson is this: the people who truly understand others rarely believe they've completely figured anyone out. They know every person has invisible struggles, private fears, and experiences hidden beneath the surface. Instead of assuming they know someone's story after a few seconds, they remain curious. Every conversation becomes another piece of a much larger puzzle. The ability to read people isn't about having a supernatural gift. It's about slowing down long enough to notice what everyone else rushes past. Tiny expressions, emotional timing, repeated patterns, comfortable silence, hidden contradictions. These small details quietly reveal the emotions words often fail to express. Sometimes the greatest changes don't begin with speaking more. They begin with observing more. And once you start noticing these hidden patterns, you'll begin seeing them everywhere. If this video gave you a new perspective, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like to explore more hidden patterns of human behavior, consider subscribing for future videos.